So there's a question which seems to come up around the world over and over, and we'd like to ask you if you could go into it as deeply as you'd like to. The question seems to be in the minds of people who have really studied and gone into your teachings as deeply as they know how. And that question is that something doesn't happen. There isn't a sort of explosion that gets them beyond what one would consider the intellectual level. Is there some factor of change we could go into?
This has been a question that has been asked over and over and over again.
Yes. Krishnaji, may I interrupt and ask also a correlative to this question, which is all of the material that has come from your teachings, all of the books and the videotapes and the audio tapes, how can one approach those, or what does one do with those so that they really make a difference? It's not just more intellectualizing or gathering more knowledge.
So,
and even how does one listen to this?
Does Kay answer the first question or your question?
Well, it seemed that they might be related questions, sir.
We'll see.
Right.
The first question was, and this question has been asked in different parts of the world, why isn't there, in all of those who are concerned, serious, an explosion, something totally different taking place, right? I wonder if that's the right question. Why should anything take place? This expectation that something should take place may be utterly wrong. I'm just talking it over with you. Maybe something that sounds rather trivial, though it may be put very seriously, it is not appropriate. Why should anything happen?
Well, sir, it's very...
Either as an explosion, as further clarity, or something that the brain has never occupied with, something the brain is not acquainted with, and so on. Is that the right question? I'm asking myself and you, is that the right question?
Well, sir,
or, it may, or this expectation something should happen may be totally wrong.
Are you suggesting that the expectation may prevent it, or that there shouldn't be something?
Not only it prevents, but also can the brain expect something which it hasn't cooked up?
Well, so you've talked a great deal about change, the necessity, the urgency of change, about mutation.
I've talked endlessly, yes.
This implies something very different from what we all know in varying degrees.
What are you trying to say?
Well, sir, you ask the question, why don't we change? And you talk about the urgency of change and the need for transforming,
so
and yet we don't do it.
May I suggest that we rather stick to that rather than something doesn't happen.
Stick to what, sir?
Stick to why don't human beings, you or I, or
yes,
symbols, why don't we find out why isn't there a change in us? Rather than expect something to happen, to explode and bring about a change.
I think people feel that they have worked very hard at this. They have read, studied, listened.
That may be wrong too.
How so?
You can't try hard. Then if you try hard and give all your time and energy to something, then it becomes like one of these monks. Like the monks and the sannyasis, the world over.
Yes.
They are tremendously making effort. They're making incalculable effort.
Yes, yes.
They pray, they get up in the morning and they do all kinds of tortures go through. That may be totally immaterial, that. So I'm asking, or you asking too, why is it that we human beings don't radically change?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I should think that was more important than expecting something new to happen. That's so silly.
Yes, that is fundamentally our question, sir.
Yes.
Why don't we fundamentally change? And we can't even say, why don't we, the two here in front of you, radically change? Because it's undoubtedly the same for anybody.
Why? Why doesn't you or her fundamentally change? Or change implies time, from this to that, right? We have said that too before.
Yes, that's the becoming that you've talked about, that we've said is not...
Kind of little fish. Change implies time. Changing the room to another room, going to another room, changing from what I am to what I should be. All those endeavors, all those attempts imply time, either a long time or a short time. We may be approaching it wrongly when we talk about change.
Krishnaji, could I say, I think in defense of people who have been serious about this, that they're not using time as an aid. They're
I'm not saying
thinking
as
it's
an
implied.
aid. I'm talking about the very word change implies time.
Does it?
Yeah. Change to what?
But now, sir, it doesn't imply time when you have asked that question.
No.
Now, here you have someone in front of you, Krishnaji. Why does this person not change?
Change to what? Change from what?
From what that person is. Which is obviously...
May I ask them?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you, Scott, change?
Well, that's my... Yes.
I won't even use that word, if I may. I think it's dangerous to keep on repeating the same word.
Right.
Vocabulary becomes then monotonous and
yes, right.
Could we change that word? I mean, not use that word at all.
Fine.
Right? And look at it differently. Will you do that?
Yes, of course.
That is, I am what I am. That is, I am, etc. I'm angry, jealous, hating and disliking, pain, pleasure, sorrow, and all that.
Yes.
Do I realize, or you realize, that I'm all that? There is no other entity. There is nothing superior or inferior. Higher self, lower self, who is a temperature. I am that. Do you too realize that?
Krishnaji, in that very word realization, there is something.
Course.
Because One realizes it.
Do you see the fact of it?
You see the fact.
Wait, that's all. Stop a minute. Stop a minute. You see the fact.
Yes.
Which is so.
Yes.
Now we go very carefully into it. What do you mean seeing it? Seeing the fact. Seeing the fact. There are so many books there.
Don't you see
I want to be very clear when you use the word see. Do you see the idea of it or the actuality of it? Don't answer me yet. Do you see? There it is.
Yes.
Or at the back of your brain, there's the idea it shouldn't be. Or that you are not satisfied with it. Or there is certain urge that you should not be. Because that's our tradition, that's our whole education, everything is involved in it. Could we look at it, not, wipe away every form of condemnation or approval?
Can I ask you if this is, my description is looking. For me, it is to see the action happening at that moment, the
Good
feeling,
enough.
whatever it is in the mind, happening in that moment, without qualifying good or bad or anything else, or changing it, just seeing it happen.
Therefore, when I go back and see why it happens,
Yes.
why this urge to move it, change it, control it.
Well, sir, it's
despise
obvious.
it,
It's
and so
obvious when one looks at it that these things are not right, and also that
you see, that's what I'm objecting.
and they cause chaos in one's life and around one.
No, I don't want to feel chaos. It is so.
It is so, and it's
That's
a
all.
mess.
That's all. It is so.
Yes, it is.
There is not the urge or the condemnatory attitude or accepting it is so.
But is there without judgment
That's what I'm asking.
right? Just a scene though that it's somehow inadequate or it's not
No,
right
you
or
see, you're already taking a point of view of condemnation.
not of condemnation, but of seeing the thing as it is.
As it is, stop there.
May I go back to your question? Do you see what is behind it? Why it's so?
Yeah,
now, what
that's-
is that process? Is that can so easily become an intellectual one?
No. I won't use any of these intellectual words.
But that's the danger there.
To me, this is a fact. It is so. What is. And there is no other movement.
But you suggested seeing what's causing it, the cause.
I'm not even going into that yet.
Sir,
First, do we realize or see, observe any form of acceptance or non-acceptance doesn't exist in the brain cells themselves?
sir,
No,
may I?
just
Yes,
some.
may I? Without, I'm not trying to be
Go ahead.
clever here, but part of the condition of oneself is this sense that things are not right. Now,
That's what I'm objecting.
exactly. But now, if I'm to say that it's not right to have a sense that things aren't right, you see, it's actually creating it. I mean, the way one is has a sense of judgment or has a sense of condemnation.
Stop. That's all our training, our conditioning, our sense of the history of man's history.
But that's the way one is.
So I said, look, first that you have brought in all that. I said, the fact is, I'm all this.
Yes.
That's all I'm insisting on that, sorry. You are bringing another fact, another reaction of the background that we are trained, educated to say this right, this wrong, this should not be, this must be, this the ideal, this is what Lenin or somebody taught. I want to wipe out all that and start.
Does that imply a change, to wipe out all that?
I don't know anything about change.
But to wipe out all of that, sir, is a kind of movement, isn't it?
I'm objecting to say this right or wrong, or admitting this is correct, this is false. It is so. I've got brown, you've got brown shoes.
Yes, but are you saying it's incorrect to condemn or...
Do you see when you say this right and this wrong, this should be... That is interference with what is.
Yes.
That's all I'm
Yes.
saying. I'm not saying anything else.
Yes.
You are really objecting to what is when you bring all that in.
Yes.
They want to ask about the what is. Let's take the usual sort of emotions that we talk about. Say anger.
Anger.
Yes.
I'm angry.
Looking at that is what? It is feeling it at that moment. Is not
What?
saying, "Oh, I'm angry,"
No,
and that's just
no.
a statement of
I
fact.
have been angry. That's a
It's
fact.
feeling it at that moment and seeing that action in the mind and body of anger. Is that what you mean?
No.
What?
You are not what I mean. It's wrong to ask me a question like that. Is that what you mean? Because what do you mean? Not what I mean. What does K mean? What do you mean to be aware at the instant of anger? That's what it implies.
Yes.
It bursts out.
Yes.
All right. And then later, second later, you say it shouldn't be. Right? It was correct to be angry. It was reasonable to be angry. And so on. Mm-hmm. That comes later. At the moment of anger, there is no I involved in it at all. Mm-hmm. It's just a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
All the adrenaline coming into action. All right. Later on, begin to condemn it or rationalize it.
Very quickly.
Very.
Well, before that, you recognize it. You say
Yes, I've been
anger.
angry. Of
You
course,
name it.
Of course, I've been angry. I've also given it a name immediately.
Mm-hmm. Sir, can we come back then to we are, if we just, do we see what we are without condemning it or judging it
Just
or...
see what you can, if you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just consider seriously if you can just observe it without, if there is an observation, not you observing, if there is an observation without any reaction, that is change, if you like to use the word.
Wait.
May I ask that very moment, that observation, the anger is still flowing, as it were. It's still happening.
It's gone.
It's gone?
Of course.
When did it go?
When you say it's right or wrong.
No, before, I'm not saying that. If you feel it and you say anger,
Yes.
then does it go, or do you let it?
That goes.
You
It is
feel
gone.
it. You let the feeling. You don't
It is gone.
abort it, as it were.
It has gone.
The moment you say it is anger,
Yes.
it's gone.
It's gone, of course. you have used that word so often with regard to that particular reaction, and it comes out quickly. I've been angry.
So it's gone at that moment.
Not gone. It's not there. You're using these words, gone. It's not there. Well, I'm asking you to do something which you are not doing, if I may request. You see anger or jealousy. You observe the arising, the causation, all that, of jealousy, which is very common. Don't, if I may suggest, don't condemn it. Don't say, yes, it's right, it's wrong, I should be, I should not be. But just see if you can remain with that feeling without any sense of judgment.
Oh, fire alarm, sir.
Again.
Sir, we have the observation of the fact without any judgment, without any reaction. Then what?
Is that a fact or just that what?
Well, sir, it seems when you ask that question, if I do that.
No, I don't suggest anything. I say, do you actually observe a fact without observe the self-movement, the self-conscious or unconscious state of the brain, the feeling that you are that? Do you have that actual reality, truth, or fact in front of you? You are observing it? Or let's get on with it. I'm afraid you are inclined to say, yes, I understand. Let's get on. What next?
But sir, if you ask that question, and if the answer is no, which is what's implied, but then there's the next question.
I'm not asking no or yes.
No, but you're asking that question of me, and if I say no, my next question then is, well,
why? Then
why?
Ask why?
Why?
Why can't you seize the fact?
Yes.
The tiger, whatever it is, the tree, or your own antagonism or like and dislike and so on. Why don't you see all that without any reaction? Don't say no or yes, I can't, I can, I cannot. Just find out why you can't, if you can't.
But sir, can I ask, that seeing, that observation tends, in many people, myself included, to be intellectual. It isn't seeing it all the way.
That's another of your statements which I'm refuting. There's nothing to do with intellect.
Well, it comes out that way.
I know.
So often.
That means you have gone away from the fact. The fact is this blue sweater.
Yes.
Then I look at it. I don't have bring. I don't like it. The button is wrong.
All right,
I
sir.
not from the right
right, making it just absolutely simple, sir. This is not something that one does. One is stuck.
No one is not stuck.
Well, then what it?
You are making statements, like using words which it doesn't mean a thing to me.
But sir, take the
You're
blue
not
sweater.
Stuck.
The blue sweater, your mind, your eyes see the wavelength or whatever it is of color, and your mind identifies it blue and sweater. So that's a purely intellectual response. But this inside oneself is quite different.
Now move in the same, along the same wavelength or whatever word you like. Find out why you can't look at yourself without reaction. go into it. You don't go into it.
One is trying, sir.
No, you're not. You can't try. You see, you just now admitted without trying, you are all that. Right?
Yes, sir.
You admitted it.
Absolutely.
Now you go back and say, well, I'm trying to see the causation of all this. It's
Sir,
very, very simple.
Sir, I might be an absolute idiot, but for years one has been listening to you and reading the books and trying to see, but all of the things that one does, sir, because one can see the necessity of something like this.
No.
And
look, don't go off to something, Scott, if I may suggest. Stick to this point. Why these reactions predominate? Why can't you look at your anger, whatever it is, without any judgment? Yes, I've been angry, it is so.
Mm-hmm.
I've lied, it is so. I've disliked that woman or liked that man. Or why do you have to bring all the other things in?
At the risk...
Kay is saying this because he actually has done it. He won't talk about it if he hasn't done it. It'd be stupid and hypocritical. So I'm saying to you, asking you both, do you see the fact without any background of response like all the rest of it? And you keep on moving from there.
no, sir, at the risk of sounding awful, it seems that one has done that.
I doubt it.
I agree, because nothing comes from it.
Question why I doubt it.
Well, I doubt it also, sir, because nothing follows from it, and yet when one looks at the thing, it seems that that is what one is doing.
So would you actually listen without all this talk? And say, I'm doing, I'm not doing. Do you actually see something in yourself without any response to the background? Without any sense of previous judgment, previous appreciation or depreciation of something that you have seen in yourself. See, that is where we are stuck, not go on further.
I agree, sir.
To me, there is no further. No more or less or better. Or all that implies measurement. Measurement means time. And I say, what? Why should I have all this? It is so. Somebody has hit me, it is so. And I say, why should I bring in my particular reaction to it and say, I dislike that man or woman who's been rude to me? Yes, they've been rude, and pass on. And I think this is really very important if you go into it quietly. Not say it's impossible, I've tried, not tried, and all that kind of stuff. If you could spend a little time and find out why this constant noise of the background. You'll find something real there, which is, first of all, memory operating. You've been angry 1,000 times before. or twice before. So the memory says that's anger, cut it out, it's bad. So the memory is in question. Then recording is the question. You understand how the brain records the previous reactions and keeps on repeating the previous reactions. I've been angry, I know the feeling of it. I know also the adrenaline coming onto the surface, and so on, so on, so on. It's obvious. But it goes on. So I'm asking you, look at it without any sense of recognition. Suppose I've been hit badly, which I've been, K has been, and next day it's exactly as it was. You understand what I'm saying?
It hasn't left a mark.
I couldn't, otherwise I couldn't stay. I know, not otherwise. It didn't happen. I was as friendly, as generous, and all the rest of it as before the incident. So why does the brain keep this thing going? Memory, and you hit me and therefore I must hit you, I mustn't hit you because I have certain ideas, and so on. It's all so complicated. Is it a matter of being very, very simple? Being very simple. Or simplicity may be contrary, or you object to that very word. Because we are so highly educated, highly, or, sophisticated, any word you like to use, and we lost this real simplicity of the things as they are.
But you're also saying simplicity in the sense that it just goes on. It doesn't carry a thing.
To look at things as they are very simply, yes, they are there. I have been angry. Yes, quite right. Finish. Why do I say, why should I go into all this rigmarole about it? You tell me, can you do it? Not try. Then you're gone. I've made a habit, some habit. Can I break it given in a very, very short time? Not carry on day after day, year after year. Go on, so that's my problem. That's the question you're asking me in a different way.
Yes, sir. If that simplicity is not there, if that education and that sophistication has, in a sense, already complicated the brain.
It is there. Don't say if it is not there.
No, that education and that sophistication.
It is there.
It is there. So that simplicity is not there.
That's all I'm saying. It's not there.
Then what does...
Don't do anything. It's not there. You see,
it's not there. I agree, it's not there.
Therefore, look at it. It's not there, and remain with it. And see what happens. You don't. You move away and say, it should be, why am I not simple, etc.
To stay with it is almost too simple, sir.
That's it. But I think if you are very simple, in the real sense, you know. Then it has, that very simplicity has great subtlety. Not the subtlety of highly educated brain or anything of that kind. The subtlety which lies behind great simplicity. Let's move from this subject to something else. We were going to talk, weren't we, without any personal probing. We're going to talk about ourselves. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Are
Yes,
you
sir.
doing it? Or
One feels yes, sir. One's trying.
are you see how, don't say one feels right, or you now saying, look, I want to talk about myself.
Yes, sir, I have been.
No, do it.
But
I'll tell you. You're bound to have some habits. Right? Long established. Perhaps from your childhood. I may point it out to you. Will you stop it and calibrate that habit within a certain short period?
I think this is very close to the other question.
I'm
Because
coming to
again,
that.
you say, yes, of
I'm
course.
doing
It's
that. Come, you see, you're up. I'm asking you, you're moving away from it.
Now, sir, if we can just stay with that question, will you move away from it quickly or in a short period of time?
No.
What would make that happen, sir?
Let's be very simple about it. I may have a habit.
Yes.
When you come as my friends, for God's sake, don't have that habit.
Sir, can we bring this?
You're not
Yes.
listening. I will say to you, show me that habit. Point out, I won't rebel against it. Get irritated. Show me. And within 3 days, I promise you, I'll break it. Right?
See, this, if I may say, seems to imply,
No, not do you do it.
no.
Now, yes, Krishnamurti, can I make this a bit more real than what you've just been saying?
It's very real.
Yes, but instead of you having the habit and someone comes up and say, "Listen, I have habits."
No, sir.
Right?
you're
Now, you
complicating-
have-
You see how you're complicating the life?
No, I'm not, sir. I'm actually trying to make this much more real.
No, sir. I tell you a habit you have,
Yes.
which is whenever you're being to speak, you say, oh.
Yes, exactly. Now,
Yeah. Now, wait. Listen to me. Don't. You have that habit.
yes.
I don't know for how long you've had it. It may be nervousness. It may be in saying that you're thinking out.
Yes.
Give you space,
Yes.
time, and so on. Now, I'm just asking. I'm not asking you or do this, don't do that. Will you break it completely in 3 days? Don't say yes or no, or I will try. That's all.
May I
I'm saying to you, just listen. Show me a habit, doesn't matter my thinking, or I have a habit of thinking about this and that, and begin to chatter, right? Give me 3 days, that's maybe too long for me. I will completely stop.
Yes. Now, sir,
You know, it'll end,
yes.
there'll be an end to it.
May I ask, right? Now, my beginning speaking and saying right? You've pointed that out several times.
Yeah.
That habit has not been broken.
Find out why.
I haven't.
No, you are answering. Don't answer me. find out why you cannot stop it.
I haven't found out, sir. I haven't found out, and that's a fact. I haven't found out.
It's simple. You see, you are complicating. That's what I'm... The simple thing is you're not paying attention to it.
When it happens?
When it happens, I say, look, I'm going to watch it very carefully. Watch that I don't do that anymore. I want to know why I'm doing it. I put a pin into it right away. You begin to say, yes, I know I'll have it, I'll try, I will be this and that. It's like a balloon, you're pushing air into it all the time. If you say, yes, that's my habit, I will recognize it, thank you for pointing it out to me. And 3 days, no more.
Sir?
3 days, no more than that.
Sir, when you do this...
Not when I...
No, when I do this, 3 days, no more, is there no condemnation? There's no judgment? There's no wanting to end?
No.
There's no sense of time in saying 3 days?
It is... You point out to me, right? A habit. I don't know, point out to me. X habit, right? Certain kind of habit. At first, rebel against or whatever it is. I say, you're quite right. I have that habit of chattering, let's say. And I say, you're quite right. Habit implies repetition, mechanical brain, mechanical attitude for habit, repetition. All the time repeating, it becomes, you understand, the brain becomes weary upon it, or deadens, or is scatterbrained. So I realized all that quickly. I don't have to discuss with anybody.
And that's not a condemnation either.
Of course not, it's a habit.
Right. So and it's a fact that it dulls the brain. It's not a condemnation that it dulls the brain.
No, it is so.
Right.
Why doesn't that realization act?
It's not the realization that acts.
But you said attention.
I realize I should get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I don't. So I say, it's not realization. Please just listen to what I'm saying or not. You tell me I have a habit, right? You have a habit, or a dozen habits. Habit is habit. Repeat, because you have done it 1,000 times before, and so on and so on. You point out to me, I'm not condemning, it is so. And I realized too, the brain realized too, repetition, mechanical, thoughtlessness, scatterbrained.
Yes.
Right. So I said, give me 3 days, I'll see. No, I'll end it. Which means I pay tremendous attention.
So.
Attention. I don't argue with me.
No, I'm not.
I pay attention. Where I put the towel, where I'm rushing to do something else, I pay attention. And you will see a thing happens then.
Sir, may I ask, this same attention that might end a simple habit like saying
No, it's not simple. It's not habit is habit. It is the habit going to the church and worshipping some image, or habit sex or whatever it is, habit.
Sir, are you saying that all of the background, the continuation of our background, the anger, all of that is habit?
Part of it.
Yes. But sir, what brings about that intense attention?
Nothing will bring it up. You see, you are
then
going back.
But sir, something must generate that, because as you said, habits are mechanical, they're deeply ingrained. Something has to be alert to that.
No, listen. Listen to what another person is saying.
Yes.
Don't be casual. I've told you certain things day after day. Yes, you pass by. You don't actually listen when Scott tells me you've got that habit. I'm resisting it. I don't want to listen to you. What you're saying is so, but I dislike you to point out to me. I get irritated with you, and so on and so on. So there is all this interference with my hearing you, what you say. It's a habit with me. You say, that's your habit. Ended. No, you don't even say that to me. I say, yes, quite right. And I realize all my background has been a habit. Perhaps most of it. Getting up, putting down, you follow, throwing this and throwing that. It should become a habit. And you tell me that. I don't reject it, I don't accept it. I see the fact that I am doing this. That means I've really listened to you. Right? Now, will you listen to me now? When I say, when Kay says to you in this triangular discussion, or rather, deliberation, see your anger or dislike, listen carefully, or your national, whatever it is, and not try to change it, condemn it, justify it or anything, just watch it. You've told me I've got that habit. I don't rebel, I watch it. I don't say, you're quite right, and thank you very much for pointing it out. You've told me. So the very listening is attention, not how attention will come about.
You're saying the quality of the listening,
Yes,
without
sir,
any
I've been saying
rejection.
this for umpteen years. Listen.
Without rejection.
And listen. You listened to the far alarm just now and rushed out. Right? In the same way, listen to. I would really listen to you. I would really listen to you if you say your habit is this. You don't have to tell me anymore. Right? My brain, the brain is already in operation because I've listened to you and I see the correctness of it. And I don't get irritated, angry or justify it. It's a habit. I see the whole nature of habit. Right? Immediately.
But so you see the particular
Habit, I see, whether it's one habit or 10 different.
Yeah, but there are endless habits that we need in order to exist.
And that's a different matter. Don't
Yes.
bring that in.
So you have to see that this particular habit is not necessary.
You don't have to explain that to me. I'm an old hand at it.
I mean, we have to see that.
I don't want your explanation. Do it. Forgive me, I'm not being rough or impolite.
Sir, part of our original question that we wanted to ask you
What's that?
is, why don't we do it? You say do it.
No.
And
no.
we're saying...
It's very simple why you don't do it. May we go into it?
Yes, sir.
Why? Is it that we are incapable, because our life is so quick, incapable or reduced ourselves to incapacity not to listen? right? Not to listen to anybody.
Krishnaji, it's as though
You don't listen to me, to Kay.
it's as though
You
our
read
brains.
his books, hear his tapes over and over and over again.
But not really listen.
Nah. Therefore, scratch the books, wipe them out. Don't ever read the books anymore for a couple of months or 3 months. Go walk, find out, instead of just going on in the old way. I'm repeating this, I repeat it again. Not repeat, says this again. That when hardly ever listens, he's talked about it endlessly. The art of listening.
Yes, sir.
Nobody does.
Sir, may I ask something else, which is you've often talked about in relationship to this art of listening, which is holding a question.
Yes, sir.
That seems to be fundamental.
Yes, sir. You don't. Well, let's begin. That's a very interesting thing. I've got a question. I'm always try to find an answer to it. In books, or talking to somebody, or waiting for it to be answered. That means the brain is never with the question. Right? That's a simple fact, because I'm looking everywhere for an answer.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
Talk
sir.
to the great pundits or some yogi or some other. So I never remain with the question. Right?
Can we just talk about
I'm
that?
going to it. I'm doing it. So, can the brain stop trying to find an answer? You understand? I put you a question. What question should I put?
Why don't you listen?
Why don't you listen? That's all right. That's a question. Why don't you listen? When you tell me, Kay, why don't you listen? My brain instantly says, quite right. I don't listen to you. First of all, I've never listened to anybody. I'm vague, or I've inherited this vagueness, or it is my mother was vague, you know, the excuses, or realities. Genetic reality. And I say, yes, I recognize all those. And I say, look, I want to listen to this man or to that woman. I listen. Not say, I'm going to try, I'm not going to try, it's too tiring, etc. She wants to tell me something and I listen.
But holding...
No, wait. I listen first. I can't hold it before I listen.
Right. But then one doesn't listen.
So, not how to hold the question. So why don't I listen? What's wrong with me? Why don't I listen to something which you're trying to tell me? Because I want to do so many other things, or I'm reading a book or this, please, later. Or, stop reading, I want to tell you something. I'm interested in the book, not supposed to go to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So be quick, I said to her, I'm interested in this. Be quick, tell me briefly. She can't, I've made her already irritated. So I said, I won't say anything, I'll listen. I put the book down, or whatever I'm doing, and I want to listen to you. That's my feeling, the urgency of listening, right? And I listen to you. And I see in listening, there should be no reaction, because then I'm not listening. Right? It's an obvious fact. If I want to listen to you, I can't say, well, I have no time, or I'm bored with you, don't repeat that. But I want to listen to you. So I listen. My brain is quiet. You understand? That's the point. My brain is entirely quiet in listening. Not saying I should not, or it's the whole, etc. I'm listening. I don't know if you have noticed. When the brain is silent, it can listen infinitely. It was terribly acute, sensitive, alive. So, can I listen to you who tell me I've got a habit? Somebody told me the other day, after one of these gatherings, he said, "Sir, may I say something?" "Yes." "You are stuck in a groove." I didn't object. I didn't feel it was right. I went to my room, the room I occupied, and I said, "Is this a fact? Is it a fact that I'm stuck in a groove?" "Probably I am. I haven't noticed, so let's examine." Follow? I went into it. Not taking sides. I am right, he's wrong. So, your whole sense of aliveness, if I can use, your whole sense of active observation. You tell me I am stuck in words or in a groove. I'm listening because that's terrible to be stuck in a groove. I'm getting to be old, perhaps I am. Not getting, I'm old. I may be stuck, and you're quite right. So, I'm watching where I'm stuck. I don't deny it, I'm watching. Right? Will you do it? Will you watch it that way? Don't tell me I'll try, then you're off. That's just an excuse. Will you do it? Will you listen? So entirely that you see the actuality of your own idiocy. Sorry to use that word.
So is there something that keeps you so watchful?
What?
Is this quality of immensely alert watchfulness something, it's not apart from you, it is the way you are.
So,
But
if you're inalert, not alert, why?
Yes, why?
Are you not enough sleep, or you're used to kind of sluggishness, or you dozen reasons. But those reasons doesn't explain this. Explain that you don't listen. And also we are getting old. The brain for so long has carried on a particular direction or a particular habit, and it can't change. They talk about change, they talk about etc.
I
But
think
you can't.
this isn't, at least, is not a matter of age, though it could be. Because one sees it at all ages, this as though the brain were in layers, and
Don't
things
talk
do
about all
not
those
penetrate
things. But you
people
don't
the way
talk
they do
about
with
all
you.
those things. First see how, etc.
Well, sir, may one ask then?
No, you ask, not me.
This listening, is this something which is available to everyone despite the years of non-listening that they've been doing?
Why are you putting that question? If I want to listen to good music, I want to listen. It's so simple.
Sir, I ask because even though all of these things you have said, it's still not done.
To you.
It's
I come along and say to you, smoking is very bad for your health. It affects your heart, affects your brain, right? Affects real sensitiveness. So quite right. It's not what you are. Which means what?
Which means that you haven't
Even
seen
listen.
something.
But taste has become more important than find out. I know several people that have told me, I smoke, though I know it's very bad for me. Coughing and all that. I like the taste of it. That's the end of it.
Well, there's the element of physical addiction in something like smoking, but this superficiality of attention, which is in so many people, is surely
We're
something.
not talking about so many people. I'm asking you,
Yes.
as you are good enough to talk to me, I'm asking you to pay attention. Listen. Pay attention to what you're doing. You may have to do 10 things, but one thing at a time. I think so. All this is extraneous talking, useless talking. You tell me something, and it rings true. And because I want to be truthful, I listen very carefully. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I like you to point out to me whether I'm a hypocrite or not. I like it. I don't say, sorry. I like to be pointed out if I'm a hypocrite. And you say, yes, you do this, contrary to that. You say one thing and do something else. I don't object. I receive it on the contrary. I basically feel that hypocrisy is terrible for me. So I said, I'm very glad you told me. I'm going to watch it. I'm on the top of it already.
Yes, sir.
Five minutes to go, sir. 4 minutes to go. Basta.
Basta.